Anything else? Anything? No? Okay, well, if you think of something, let me know, and we'll add it to what we're gonna discuss. So the other things I want, so we'll talk about this, maybe we'll do this first. I wanted to talk a lot about downwind sailing today. Want to talk about boat speed, boat handling stuff with downwind sailing, and I want to talk about kind of tactics and strategy for kind of racing downwind. So today will be a big downwind day.
Jibing?
I'm sorry?
Jibing?
Jibing.
Reach, win.
Yes, lots of, so downwind, so we'll talk a lot about, so we'll do boat handling, tactics, lots of, all of that, so jibing, wing to wing, boat speed, all that stuff. Okay. Is this going? Oh, it's going, I'm good.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, hi. All right, so first let's talk about this. So this is not downwind, this is gonna be upwind. And this is how to figure out whether you're going to cross in front of a boat or not. Right, so I think we talk about that a decent amount, right? So where we have a boat here, let's say a boat here, right? So which boat, so just very quickly, which boat has right of way and why? Blue or green and why? Anybody?
Blue.
Blue, why? Tommy?
Is it port tack or is it starboard tack? It's the starboard tack because they're sitting on the starboard.
It's on starboard tack, yes, correct. Blue boat is on starboard. The green boat is on port. Are there any questions on that? If there are, that's okay. Say it. Does everyone?
Which way is the wind blowing?
Okay, good question. Wind's coming from here.
Oh,
Okay. So, everyone understands that? Like which boat's on starboard tack, which boat's on port? Okay. So, as the port tack boat, right, in this situation when you're approaching blue, one of the things that's going to go through your mind is, one of the things you're considering is, are we going to, when we interact, right, are we going to be able to cross kind of just clear in front of the blue boat, right? Or are they going to cross us, or are we going to have an interaction where we as the port boat are going to have to do something, either tack, duck, what have you, right? Hi, morning. You've just come in time for learning how to tell whether you're going to cross a boat or not.
Perfect.
Yes. So, okay. Let's envision that there's, which there almost always is. So here's land, okay? Or some kind of shoreline, right? And there's stuff there. And now we're going to use the example that I used with Ernest and Lockwood this weekend. Now, let's imagine that there is a big blue ball on land here. Okay, so you are looking. So your guys are sailing in your little FJ here, right? And you're looking at this boat, and then you're looking beyond that starboard tack boat. Okay, and you're looking beyond them, forward of them, right? You don't care about what's going on behind. Care about what's going on forward. Okay? Now, I can see past them, past their bow, and I can see on shore, and I can see that there's a big blue ball there. Okay? if, as I'm sailing towards the blue boat, if I can start to see more things on land that are to the right of this big blue ball, right? So if I can start to, so when I'm looking at this boat, if I can start to see more stuff over here, right? Let's say there's like a little house over here, right? House, whatever, right? Or let's say there's another building, right?
Wait, house or mouse?
It's important.
Let's call it a mouse, because that's even funnier. Let's say there's a mouse and a house, and a louse, and a louse, right? But to the right, to this side, right? I can see more stuff to the right of that big blue ball. That's telling me what? In this am I going to cross or not question.
You're gonna make it.
Tells me that I'm more likely, yes, going to make it, right? So this is telling me that I am, likely what this is telling me is that the starboard boat is what? So, header or lift, like headed or lifted.
Wait, I don't know what that means.
Okay. We should probably do that then too. Okay. This means that, well, we don't even have to do the header or lifting for right now. But this means that, yes, you are probably going to cross that boat. Okay? If it's the opposite, right? So if there's all this stuff over here and there's this big blue ball, and now I'm sailing towards this blue boat, and as I'm sailing toward this blue boat, I can't even see the blue ball anymore.
Meaning the blue ball is covered.
It's covered.
It's
So
covered by the port, by the starboard boat.
it's gonna look like, so I mean, I'll just draw that again, like, kind of like that, right? So it looks like that now, right? So my line of sight, looking over here, like as I look across, that blue ball is gonna be blocked by this boat, right? Right? If that's happening, and now, so I can't even see the blue ball anymore, that's blocked by the boat, and I'm starting to not even be able to see things to the left of that. That's telling me that the blue boat is gonna cross me, or very likely gonna cross me. Okay, so again, this is looking from your boat towards another boat and in front of that boat. Yes.
So when is this all happening before? This is basically deciding whether you're gonna dump or not, right? As a port boat.
Yeah. Well, yes. This is deciding what's going to actually happen,
Okay.
or what's likely going to happen, whether it's.
And when we're watching the blue ball and stuff, how far apart of the boat? It's like 50 meters or like 5 meters. Is it like close? Or is this like really before we come together?
This is before we come
Like
together.
how?
Yes.
Before?
Like
right before or like?
No, not right before. I would say this is at least, where you're going to be using this is probably at least like 10 boat lengths away, something like that. 10 boat lengths and farther away.
20 seconds.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah, when you're close, you're not going to have to. When you're much closer, it's going to be much clearer just looking at your angle and the angle of that other boat. You're not gonna have to look kind of far in the distance to kind of make that determination. This is when you're maybe like 20 seconds or more away from having some kind of interaction. Okay. So does that make sense? Yes.
I have a question. Okay, so when you're picking your blue ball or whatever on the
Yes.
shore,
Yes.
does the object that you pick on the shore change based on where you are, or like is it just one object that you can pick? Like, does it have to be directly like on your line of sight or sailing?
No, it can change
Okay, so you pick an object based on where you are?
based on where you are.
Okay.
Yes, right. Yeah. So if that object that you had picked is no longer relevant,
You pick
so
a one.
you pick a new one.
Okay.
That's a good question. That's a great question. Yes, right. So if the positioning of all this has changed and that big blue ball is now like kind of over here, pick a new point that gives you a new frame of reference.
Okay.
Yes. Good question. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay. And yeah, so will this give you 100% the correct answer? You know, as you kind of so if you notice, 30 boat lengths away, 30 seconds away, that you think, okay, we're gonna cross. Does that mean that 100% once you guys actually get closer that's gonna happen? No, because you can get what can happen as you get closer. Two things that can happen, right? Right, a wind shift. What else is maybe going to be a variable or is going to be varying between boats as they're sailing closer to each other? Speed, right, boat speed. So, point being, this isn't just like a one-time thing to check, right? This is not like check it when you're, 20 boat lengths away and then say like, okay, looks like we're crossing, and then just like kind of forget about it and don't think about it again, right? This is something that you're constantly looking at because it's gonna change. So just you're continually looking at this to see if the situation is, it's like, okay, looks like we're gonna cross, okay, as we get closer, they're gonna head up higher, maybe we're not crossing anymore, right? So constantly check that. Questions on this? Okay, Tommy brought up wasn't sure what I meant by header and lift, so I don't think he's the only one, so let's just go over that. And let's have somebody feel confident explaining that.
I could explain it, I think.
Makbaro, yes, explain it. Go for it. Would you like to draw?
Sure.
Okay. Here you are.
From what I understand.
Yes. I'm just trying to find you in a race.
Okay.
Or find myself in a race.
All right. So we usually when we're talking about the wind direction, we just draw it vertically. But sometimes there is a wind shift, either from this direction or this direction, right? And we know if we're talking about wind from this direction, we have this like no-go zone, this 90 degrees. But what happens is when we have a wind shift, either from this direction, at this 90 degrees, our no zone becomes, our no zone shifts to these two directions. So say this is our windward marks, and these are the leeward marks. So in this case, our close haul position are relatively like this. If we draw the no-go zone. So what that basically means is that if we're trying to sail upwind, if we stay to this direction, if we stay on this, which is the port tack.
Mhm.
Right?
Opposite.
Which is the starboard. Wait. Sorry, I think I'm drawing my boats.
No, you're right.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, okay.
Sail
right.
other
Yeah,
side,
yeah,
sail
yeah.
other side.
The sail just is on the other side,
Oh,
right? Because right, the wind's pushing this way.
oh yes. Oh my God, I was thinking about this for
Okay.
some reason. Yeah.
That's okay.
Okay, so basically what this means.
One thing, Makbaro, draw the boat a little bigger.
Bigger? Okay.
Yeah.
Alright. So.
Yeah. There you go. Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. So say we take a course like this instead. we keep going, then we head up. This is like a much longer course that we have to take. But instead, if we just take the starboard tag, right, we're crossing a much shorter distance. So that just means we are lifted because we have to cross a shorter distance.
Okay, so this is all good. So draw the other boat. So draw a boat on port tack.
So that would be, yeah, that would sort of be like this instead. Yeah, so yeah, you would have to crotch a much.
Okay, so what Makoto is drawing here is this is great. This is all good. So what he's drawing here is two boats that, if the wind is coming from this direction, right? How close each of these boats would be able to get to that no-go zone, right? And what direction they would be pointing to if they were maximum close hauled, meaning they were heading up as high as they could without being in the no-go zone. So if the wind, so this boat being on starboard, this boat being on port. So now, which boat, starboard or port, in this situation where the wind is more towards the, now so when we say wind shift, right and left, that's just relative to looking upwind, right? So if the wind shifts to the right, that means when we're looking upwind, the wind has just shifted to the right side. Or to the left means to the left, while you're looking upwind. That's the traditional frame of reference for that. So, starboard boat, port boat. In this situation, hi, Indian, hello. Which boat is pointing closer to the windward mark? So, starboard, port. Which boat is pointing closer to the windward mark? Connie. Starboard. Does that make sense? Does everyone see that, right? Starboard boat pointing closer to the windward mark than port. Port boat's heading who knows where, right? Starboard boat is heading more or less toward the mark. Starboard in this case, when the wind is more to the right, is referred to as the lifted tack, right? Starboard is lifted. Port is the headed tack, right? So if you're on the lifted tack, you're going to be able to point your boat closer to the mark, versus when you're on the headed tack, you're pointing farther away from the mark. So if you're racing here, what in this case, when the wind is in this right phase, what tack would you want to be on? Yeah, starboard, right? You always want to try to sail on the lifted tack. Okay, so Makoto, thank you.
Yes.
You have anything else?
Yes.
Yes, go.
Yeah, just one more thing. So
Yes.
one thing that I like to visualize, say this is the windward mark and this is the leeward mark, and say we have a sort of, this is like an extreme situation. It's probably not going to happen, but and also a very idealized situation. But say the wind is coming at a 45-degree angle, right? So then this would be our no-go zone. This is the close hold position.
Everyone understand what the no-go zone is? Right? That's just, the wind is coming from a certain direction, and then certain number of degrees on either side of that exact direction the wind is coming from, where you're not going to be able to sail in, right? You're going to be in irons. Sails are going to be luffing. That's what we're referring to.
Yeah. So
Well, what if
I
got
just
math going on here? Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah, I just like to break it down into components. So you can see if the wind is coming from, say, a 45-degree angle, right? If you're heading in this direction, you're not gonna you're not gonna go any distance in the vertical direction. You're never gonna reach your windward position. Instead, if you're going in the in this position, you don't even have to do the zigzag or whatever, just because the wind is like biased in this direction, I guess. So yeah, that's just how I like to think about it.
Okay.
The wind is coming from 45-degree angle, and you can just go straight up.
So you think about it a little more mathematically. In your
I
mind.
guess so. Yeah.
A little bit. Okay.
Yeah. That makes
No,
more
that's
sense.
and that's great, and that's fine. Everybody's gonna maybe think about this and visualize this a little differently, and that's great, right? However you understand it and visualize it is correct, right? There is no wrong way as long as you understand the reasoning behind it and the implication of it, right? So yeah, if you think more, that 100% makes sense what you're saying, and if you think about it more that way, great. And I think that's kind of just more of like kind of the details of what is actually happening. I think you're absolutely right? The boat that's on the headed tack is kind of just sailing more horizontally, right? And you think about making progress to a windward mark, you want to make more, right, vertical progress. And so that's what the lifted tack is. The lifted tack is giving you more vertical progress. That's great. Okay, Magno, that was awesome. That was really good. So Magno drew that. Now, does anyone want to take a stab at doing that again, but drawing what the situation would be if the wind is more from the left? No one wants to take a stab at that? Okay. Right, so let's just, I can do that. So you have the wind here, say the wind is more to the left, so as we drew, right, you have your no-go zone is more like that. So in this case, right, a boat that's on port is going to be able to head up like that. Boat that's on starboard is going to end up pointing like that. Okay. Again, this is an extreme example, right? The wind is very, very far left here, but so a boat that's on port tack is going to be able to point, and again, your windward marks, let's say, are up here, right? So a boat that's on port is going to be pointing much closer to the windward marks than a boat that's on starboard. So in this case, port would be lifted, and starboard is headed. Okay, so now the implication of this is you want to sail on the lifted tack, right? And the wind is shifting. So if you are sailing on port, let's say, in this case, and then you're on the lifted tack, and then let's say the wind shifts from here to here, and you are on port. So you were lifted. Wind was here, now it's from here. What's going to happen to you? When that wind shift happens, so it goes from here to here. Tommy.
You're gonna stop.
I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, you're slow down. You're cause you're gonna hit the no-go zone. It's gonna hit you.
The no-go is going to hit me, yes. So what am I going to do to avoid stopping, though? So you're right. You are correct. If I do nothing, then I will just go into irons
There's
here.
something to do, what you're saying.
Well, correct, right? Because I'm actively steering the boat, right? And I'm actively driving the boat to the telltales, right? So what is going to happen? What am I going to see? What's going to happen here as the wind goes this way? Wind goes to the right. What am I going to have to do to keep the boat going close hauled? I'm going to have to head down, because what am I going to see? I'm looking at the jib, right? I'm driving the boat, I'm steering the boat, I'm watching the telltales on the jib. What am I going to see?
Your windward,
Telltale?
the telltale, yeah, it's gonna start luffing.
Yeah, windward telltale is going to start luffing. Maybe also, what's going to start happening probably too, not just the telltale, but
The jib is
the
gonna
jib itself, the sail itself will start to luff. And my reaction to that is to head down. right? Because I want to keep the telltales going parallel, and I want to keep the jib full, right? I don't want the sail to luff. As Tommy said, if I just don't do anything, then I'll have the sails luff, yeah, I'll stop, I'll just be an iron. So not good. So I end up heading down. So instead of pointing like this, now maybe I'm pointing like this. Okay, so I've gone from this direction to this direction. What has happened to me? I have been headed. Okay, this shift was a header. When I'm on port tack and the wind goes to the right, I can't head up as high as I once could, so I am now headed relative to the other tack, right? So if I get headed, so I can't head up as high as I once could. I'm sailing, sailing, my windward telltale starts to go crazy, my jib starts to luff, I have to head down. However many degrees this is a pretty significant shift, right? So this is heading down a lot, right? And if I have to head down, however much I have to head down, that's the degrees of shift that I'm experiencing. What would I want to do here? If this happens to me, I'm sailing and I get headed. What do I want to do?
Tack.
Why?
Because you want to get lifted again?
Correct. Because port tack has now become headed, therefore starboard tack is now the lifted tack. Okay, so if I get headed, I want to tack. The bigger the header, the more imperative it is to tack, right? So if I have to head down by 15 degrees, that's pretty significant, right? I definitely should tack because I will be then heading up 15 degrees higher, right, on that other tack, right? Once I tack onto starboard and I get lifted, right? So you could get headed, you could also get, right? The wind could go, this is super crazy, but like, the wind could go even farther to the left. Let's say that happens and I'm sailing on port. What can I do now if the wind goes farther to the left? What am I going to notice as I'm sailing? What can I do? Right? Now the no-go zone is here. I can head up even higher. So instead of going like that, now I can go like this. I mean, here it's like, I mean, again, this is extreme, but this is trying to just demonstrate the point. So I can head up higher. How do I know I can head up higher? What are my visual cues for my jib that I can head up higher? Hint, it involves the telltales.
When they look sad.
When they look sad. Yes, correct. And specifically, which one? They will both, yeah, they will both look sad, but specifically, which one looks really, really sad? The other one.
Oh, the outer.
The outer. They'll both probably, if you had this much of a shift, they will probably both be sad. But a more subtle, if it's a more subtle shift, the outer one will be sad. Okay? It'll be pointing down. My outer telltale points down. Always that means I need to head up. Right? And if I'm trying to go close hauled, right? That's the caveat. I'm trying to go close hauled here. Outer telltale points down, start to head up. And then I get it parallel again. So now, once I get it parallel again, I notice, oh wow, I was pointing this way, now I can point over here. You know, Mark's over here, so like, probably we're not gonna wanna do that, but this means that I have been, if I can head up higher, so if I can't head up as much anymore and I have to head down, that means I'm getting headed. If I can head up higher with a wind shift, that would be lifted, right? Right, so this would be lifted. So lifted means you can head up higher or more, right? Head up higher or more while staying close hauled, right? I think that's the key here, while staying close hauled, right? And then headed would be, I have to head down to stay close hauled without jib luffing. Right? If I have to head down to stay close hauled without the jib luffing, I got headed. If I can head up higher to stay close hauled, and that keeps me close hauled, that keeps the telltales going parallel, I've been lifted. This is good. This means that so if I get lifted, what do? Again, that extreme example is,
You're heading towards the windward.
yeah, so would I want to do anything here? Like, would I want to change direction? Would I want to change tack? No, correct, I wouldn't. I'd want to stay on the lift, right? Because I'm heading closer to the windward mark, so why would I tack? Because if I tacked, I would be on the headed tack, which we determined was not good, right? So if I get lifted, I stay on the lift. I don't tack. If I get headed, I tack, and I get on the lift. Okay, so any questions on this? Super important stuff. Like this is, if we, so if there are any questions, please ask. You mean good? Bet. Okay, downwind. Here we go. So, first off, let's just talk about what are the two basic points of sail, I guess, for downwind. What are they called, and what are they? Explain them to me or to the group. Give me one. Reach. Okay. Explain. Wind's still coming from the top here. Someone explain a reach to me. There's actually, reach is a little bit, it's not complicated, but it's just like there's varying levels of a reach, right? But someone explain that to me. It's a reach. Just in general, just a general term.
Well, when I hear reach, I just kind of think about the like the close hold position just in downwind. So just like at 45 degrees, just downwind. Sort of.
Okay.
I guess that's one reach.
Yeah. So we determined. So let's actually let's do the other one. What's the other one first? Maybe yeah.
Wing on wing.
Wing on wing, right? So wing on wing. So explain wing on wing to me. When can you go wing on wing? Where do you have to be pointing, and what are you?
You're pointing leeward, and
I'm pointing leeward, and I'm pointing. And specifically what though? Because like I could be pointing leeward, and be going that way. I could be pointing leeward and gotta go that way.
You're pointing the finish line.
How many degrees does it mean?
Like zero.
It's 180.
180. I'm going directly opposite the wind direction. Okay? When I'm going directly opposite the wind direction, this is when I can go wing on wing. So this is, the term for this is being on a run, right? And the wind is directly behind me, 180 degrees behind me, so I can go wing on wing. So I can have the main on one side and the jib on the other side. Okay? This is the only time where I can have the sails on either side of each other. If the jib does not want to come to the opposite side, so if I can sit there, if I'm pointing in this direction, right? If I'm going in this direction, I'm on some version of a reach, right? So I'm not going close hauled. I'm not going wing on wing. I'm not on a run. I'm somewhere in between, right? So that's kind of the definition of a reach. It's in between close hauled and a run. And there are different names for different degrees. So if I'm like 90 degrees to the wind, that's called a beam reach. going like this, where like you're between 90 degrees and 180, that's called a broad reach. I mean, but again, there's infinite spaces in between that, so like, that's, you know, the terms are interesting, but they're not like super crucial, what type of reach you're on. It's just a matter of like, the only crucial thing would be saying like, you know, whether you want to be on a, you know, like a higher reach or a lower reach, right? So a higher reach meaning you want to be, that's pointing closer towards the wind, right? A lower reach meaning you're trying to go as low as possible, so as close to a run as you can. But again, anything in between close haul and a run is a reach. So if I was like this, right, pointing this way, had the main out, jib out, I could yank the jib sheet all I want to try to get the jib to go wing on wing here. It's not gonna go, right? Because when you're on an angle where you're above a run, the wind is pushing both sails, right? And it's pushing the jib to the same side as the main. Okay, so you can't, even if you wanted to go wing on wing here, like you can't even force it to do it because the wind is pushing the jib to the same side as the main, right? So the only time you can go on that wing on wing is when you're low enough, right? You're heading down enough, far enough away from the wind to where the jib will actually come over. When you pull that windward jib sheet, the jib comes to that opposite side of the mainsail, right? It comes to the windward side. Okay, does that make sense? Does that make sense? So if I'm sailing and I want to go wing on wing, and I notice, so I'm like somewhere pretty close to pointing wing on wing, right? Or let's say I am wing on wing, right? And then all of a sudden, I turn a little bit, let's say my jib kind of comes back towards the same side as the main, so like it collapses and comes back over here. And I want to go wing on wing again. What do? What does that mean happened?
Either the wind shifted or you turned.
Either the wind shifted, right, or I turned. And I turned, what way did I turn?
Like.
Well, it depends. Well, in this case, yes, in this case, you're right. It would be starboard, right? But I went, just in general, I went up. I headed up too much, right? I headed a little bit too, I started to head up too much to where the jib is now on a reach again. So in order to fix that, in order to get the jib back to the wing, it's not about yanking it across, you know, more and harder, right? It's just about doing what? To get it back to the wing.
Just steering.
Just turn.
Turning, right. So I would turn, which way?
Back where you were.
Yeah, I would head down a little bit, right. I would bring the tiller towards me a bit, and then I would notice the jib would then fall to that other side, right? So that's, when it won't go wing on wing, it's a steering problem. It's not I'm not pulling the jib sheet around hard enough problem. It's all a steering thing, because it's all about direction, okay? So, wing on wing versus a reach. Let's add the component of a race course here, right? So you have your leeward marks, your leeward gates, and you have a finish, you know, a start-finish line below that. What point of sail, a reach or a run, is going to point me more in the direction I need to go for the downwind leg? So downwind meaning I'm going from the windward mark down to the leeward marks. What point of sail, again, assuming that, you know, that the wind is not extremely skewed, what point of sail, reach or a run, is going to point me more directly towards the leeward mark? Tony?
The run.
The run, right? The wing on wing. This makes sense just in this drawing here, right? If I'm on a reach, I'm going this way. If I'm on a run, wing on wing, I'm going this way. This way is definitely pointing me more towards the gates than this. So the question becomes, when do you do one versus the other? Okay, because you can say to yourself, well, do I just always be on a run? Do I just always be wing on wing? And what is the answer to that?
Could a reach be headed more like lifted than run?
So we will talk about that if we have time. So wind shifts occur upwind, they also occur downwind too, obviously. Yes,
I have classes.
yes, that's okay. That's a good question though. It's a good question.
Thank you.
It's just recording. Oh, you are.
I also have to head out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah,
He's gonna take, okay. Bye.
Bye everyone. See you guys later.
See ya. Okay. So, when would a wing on wing not work? Or when is it not the best thing? Anyone know?
If it's very light wind.
Yes. So in really light wind, wing on wing is very slow. Okay? A reach is faster than wing on wing. So the thing about a reach is that you're going, so if I'm on a run versus a reach, I'm going faster on the reach. I'm just sailing more distance. Right? If I'm on a run, I have a more direct path. On a reach, I'm going faster, but I have to, if I was to get down to these marks, I would have to go like this, then I would have to come in, drive in and come on the reach, right? So I'd be sailing more distance than if I just went straight. Problem is, when it's really light wind, the speed advantage, the direct route advantage of wing on wing of a run is overtaken by the fact that I'm going significantly slower than if I was on a reach. Okay? So in light wind, wing on wing, very slow. Okay? Wing on wing is very, very slow. A reach equals faster. Okay, so I will be going faster on the reach. So what I want to do then is even though I'm sailing extra distance, when it's really, really light, that extra distance is, the extra speed that I have makes up for the extra distance that I'm sailing when I'm on a reach. Okay, now, this changes, this can change, like, as you're sailing down the run here, as you're sailing down the course, right? Because the wind speed is probably constantly changing, right? So just in the fact that at this moment, it might be really, really light wind and it makes more sense for me to be on the reach, but then let's say all of a sudden I get a puff of wind, right? And no, I know. All of a sudden I get a puff of wind, and with that puff of wind, now being wing on wing actually is faster, and it makes sense for me to head down. Basically, when you're trying to make your way downwind, you're always trying to head down as much as possible with as much speed as possible. So if you have speed, so if you're on a reach, right, and you have good speed, now good speed, right, it's a relative term, like how do you define that? I mean, it's a bit of a, if you don't have an instrument on the boat that's telling you your boat speed exactly, it's more of like a feel thing. So obviously for us, we don't have electronic instruments that tell us our boat speed on the FJs, so it's more of a feel thing. If you feel like you have speed on the reach, always try to head down more. Okay? Once you have speed, once the boat starts to pick up speed, right, after a couple seconds and you still have that speed, let's see if we can drive the boat down more. Let's see if we can go wing on wing, right? And once we go wing on wing, have we slowed down significantly or not? If we've slowed down significantly once we go wing on wing, that's an indication that, okay, it's still too light to go wing on wing. We have to go back up to the reach. If we head down to wing on wing and our speed's gonna go down a little bit, right? Because that's just inherently the difference between a reach and wing on wing, right? It's gonna go down a little bit. But if it doesn't go down a lot, it makes more sense to be wing on wing. Does that make sense? Like, it's a little subtle there, but and again, like, there unfortunately aren't like specific numerical parameters that we can use to, for our purposes at least, in order to figure that out. If you're on a bigger boat, like on keel boats and stuff like that, where they have all sorts of instruments, they actually have like polar diagrams and stuff that actually tell you like with wind, like at what wind speed, what angle you should be sailing at, and like give you your optimal boat speed for those things. Like, you know, but again, you need instruments to tell you those things. Yeah, Ernest, you were gonna say something
Yeah, I
before.
have a question. I like this idea when you are on the reach and then you try to go down. I
Yes.
understand that, but let's say we
Yes.
already are on down, like win on win.
Okay.
I'm just, always a bit scared to change it because it is costly. You need to execute this, like going on the run, on the reach nicely, not to lose the speed, not to lose the direction, and so on. So I'm kind of like not sure, should I try or not? So is there any clear indication that no, win on win doesn't work? It's not because of my mistake, it's not like because I'm not healed enough, or that my controls are not okay, or that like I'm in the wrong direction. So is there any clear indication that it's definitely not working and I need to go to reach?
Yes. And that, I think, yes. So I think that clear indication is, well, it could be a couple things. I mean, number one is if boats around you are going faster, right? If boats around you are going faster and you're wing on wing, you have to make a determination of, so if you're wing on wing and there's, boats, whatever, boats behind, whatever, maybe boat, let's draw a boat on this side, right? Everyone's kind of going downwind. Like, okay, so if boats behind you are going faster,
And
you
they're on the reach?
what?
They are on the reach now?
I mean, does it matter?
Because if they are going on win and I'm going slower, it's just because my win on win is bad, right?
Well, no, it could also be, depends on where they are, right? It could just be that they're in better pressure,
Okay.
right? And so again, yeah, okay, so like, I guess there's a lot of different scenarios here, right? So, I mean, if these boats are going wing on wing, and let's say everybody's wing on wing here, right? And these boats on this side are going faster than their wing on wing. You have to make the determination of, is that that's likely because there's more wind on this side, right? So in your case here, you have to make the determination of, okay, is that wind that they're in, is that clearly gonna come and get to me pretty quickly, or do I have to, or do I have to make a move to move my boat position to actually position myself to get into that wind, right? I think that's what you have to think about, right? And I think if the answer is that, the wind is just coming over and it's clearly it hit them and then it's just gonna hit you in the next couple seconds, I wouldn't do anything, right? I would just stay. But if it's like, okay, maybe it's a little farther away and like this wind is coming, it's clearly, it's not moving, it's not gonna reach you for a while, and like it's gonna hit them to the point where they're gonna be able to kind of ride that down and like actually catch up to you before it even reaches you. That's the point where I would say, okay, I'd wanna head up onto the reach, right? Just to connect into that breeze. Then once I get, and then so you'll know you're on that reach, you'll know once you get into it, because you'll start to feel the boat accelerate, right? Once you get into that breeze that's coming down on that side, once you feel the boat accelerate, then you can head back down to the wing. Does that make sense? Right? So it's about like kind of making the call, making the determination of whether that again, the reason why the boats would be going faster is most likely because on the downwind, it's most likely because they're in more pressure. And like you said, the only other reason would be, major reason would be just, if you're doing something just, incorrect with your boat, your boat speed is just bad, or you have 30 pounds of water in the boat or something, or something like that. But other than that, it's almost always differences in wind speed because the puff's coming down, right? And the boats behind. Remember, boats behind are getting the wind first. So when you're in front of boats, whether you're in first or whether you're in the middle, wherever you are, if you're in front of boats, you have to. That's why it's super important to look behind you downwind, because that's where the wind is coming from. And you have to make adjustments to your boat so that you're always gonna be in the maximum amount of wind possible. Does that make sense? Right? So, when you want to go up onto when you want to sail reaches, right, versus wing on wing, is a couple things, right? Number one, just positioning, right? So just like that example, if I see these boats on this side are going faster, there's more wind. It's I need to get into that wind that's coming down before they pass me. If I stay on the run, I'm just going to go this way. I'm not going to get into that wind. But if I go onto the reach, I'll get into that wind, right? So that's like a positioning thing. The other thing for positioning to get into more wind, right? The other thing would be just for clear air, right? So let's say you have, you're sitting wing on wing here, and then all of a sudden, and then you have lots of boats kind of behind you, right? And they're covering you, right? So these boats are really close, covering you. They're blocking the wind, right? So you're gonna notice you're going slower, right? I'm going slower here. You're going slower in this case, right? Because these boats are so close, they're blocking wind. You're not getting as much wind as they are, and they're slowly catching up to you. For you to stay in this position is not good, right? Doesn't make any sense for you to stay here. If you stay on the wing on the run, they're just gonna slowly keep catching you, and then they'll get even with you, and they may even pass you. So here it's like, okay, how do I clear my air? How do I get clear air? Meaning, how do I not be blocked by boats behind me? Well, one thing you could do is you could head up to a reach, right? So I could go this way, right? So I head up a bit, get myself clear of these boats, and then head back down, right? I could do it the other way too, right? So it depends on, in this case, so I could jibe, right? So I could jibe, and I can reach a little bit this way, and once I get clear, I can head down again, right? And so whether I jibe or whether I head up here just depends on kind of what side of the course I want to be on, right? Whether I think maybe there's more wind over here or over here, what gate I want to go to. But that's another scenario where I'd want to go up onto the reach. The other thing, right, where I want to go up on a reach is just if there's some skew to the course, right? Some skew to the course. So that could happen if there's a major wind shift, right? And that's common. So let's say all of a sudden, the wind shifts really far to the right. Okay? And so now if the wind is really far to the right, let's see if we can get this. Where would the boat be pointing if it was going wing on wing? So the wind is not from here anymore, it's not from here. Where would the boat be pointing? Someone draw it. Draw it, sorry, draw it.
It's just to be following this line.
Uh-huh, yeah. It would be going like that, exactly, right. So, in that case, if the wind shifts like that, is wing on wing, is that bringing me towards the mark? Does that bring me where I want to go? No. So in a shift case like that, being on a reach here would actually be better because that's the point of sail that's pointing me towards the mark. That makes sense? Right? If wing on wing is taking me, if in order to be wing on wing, I'm pointing away from the leeward marks where I need to go, then that's wing on wing is no longer the faster point of sail direction wise, right? Then I want to get on the point of sail that's actually pointing me where I need to go. Assuming, if there's subtle differences if the course is set relatively well and there's not huge shifts, right? Usually some variation, some wing on one job or the other is what's taking you closer. But again, there can definitely be shifts. Like this happened this weekend at Delaware. There were definitely wind shifts where at points, like just kind of being on a reach for most of the downwind was actually pointing you more towards the gates than if you were wing on wing. Wing on wing was pointing you like sometimes pointing you like far that way, or mostly far that way, I think. And yeah, so the other thing too is depending on, so if we're just talking about more subtle wind shifts, right? Not huge wind shifts where a reach is actually pointing you more towards the marks, but more subtle ones either to the right or to the left, where you can still stay wing on wing and point towards the gates. Wing on one jibe is going to, or one tack, right? If you're on wing on starboard, that might be pointing you slightly differently than wing on port, right? So if the wind goes just a little bit to the right, instead of, so wing on wing might be pointing you like that if you're on, did I know that right? Yeah, if I'm on starboard, versus if I'm on port, wing on wing will actually be pointing me maybe a little bit, well, the other way, right? Drawing it, be pointing me a little deeper towards the marks. So we talked about headers and lifts on the upwind, and we said we want to be on what when we're sailing upwind? What do we want to be sailing on? The lifted tack. What do we want to be on when we're going downwind? We want to be sailing the header. Because, and you can think about it in the sense of, what was the definition of a header? Header was heading me more down. Upwind, that's bad. Downwind, that's good, right? Because downwind, I want to go as down as I can, right? So meaning, so think this. So again, this makes sense if you think about it, right? The wind goes to the right. That means upwind, or just in general, right? But it's easier to think about it upwind. What tack was lifted if the wind is more to the right? Starboard. Therefore, port is headed. So therefore, if I'm lifted going into the mark, right? If I notice I'm going into the mark and starboard is lifted, I want to do what when I go around the windward mark? I want to jibe, because I want to get on the headed tack. I want to get on port. And this is why you want to do that, because if the wind is more on the right, if I stay on starboard, right, and I know the sails should be out, obviously, but, right, wing on wing is pointing me, say, that way, versus if I'm on port, wing on wing is pointing me more that way. Okay, so, it's a little bit, basically, it's if you're wing on wing, like you just, the wind shifts are, you're gonna notice the wind shifts based on where your boat is able to point when you're keeping the boat wing on wing, right? And if you notice that, like, okay, all of a sudden we're going wing on wing, all of a sudden we're no longer pointing, towards those marks, likely that means that there was either a wind shift, probably a little wind shift, and we should try to jibe and go wing on the other jibe, because it probably means that we've been lifted and we want to jibe and get on the headed tack. Does that make sense? Sort of, kind of. That's kind of the downwind, just like the theory of that in a nutshell. Obviously, it's the one thing you gotta, and then think about just like strategically, right, is around the windward mark, I have my lure gates, right, so lure gates, right, so I can choose to go to one side or the other when I'm going back upwind. Why would I choose one gate over the other? So why would I choose to go this way versus this way when I'm going back upwind?
One is higher.
One is higher, perfect, yep, right? So very often they're not perfectly even, so one might be higher. So if this gate is higher up, I'd want to go to this one, right? I have to sail less distance to get here versus to get here. Okay, what else? So if one's physically higher than the other, what other reason would I want to go to one versus the other?
One tack is favored, like one tack is lifted.
Yeah, one tack, so favored side of the course based on what phase, what side the wind is on, right? So let's use our example here. Say the wind is in a slightly right, is slightly to the right. What gate would I want to go to? If I'm going back upwind, what gate would I want to go to? Wind, because realize wind is more of the right. Would I want to go to gate number 1 or gate number 2? Where would I want to go?
Number one.
Okay, I mean, yes, but like, somebody else. Okay, why would I, okay, the correct answer is number 1. Somebody other than Ernest, tell me why the correct answer is number 1. If the wind, so again, let's simplify, let's just take stuff out of here, right? This is all out of here. The wind is more to the right. I mean, we can draw it even more to the right. So it's, okay, think about what we were talking about before, about header and lift, what tack is headed, lifted, if the wind is to one side or the other. So we set, so if the wind is here, we know the right answer, we just want to know why, right? The right answer is gate number 1, if the wind is more to the right. Why? Think about.
Would it be because you can head upwind faster, or like?
Yes. Because why? Like, give me header, give me lifted tack, header tack, give me some more.
Since you're basically like after you tack around gate 1, we'd be basically in the lifted tack because like you're literally in the wind direction, like.
Yeah, yeah, well, yes, right. So I go around gate, if I go around gate 1, and so, okay, wind is to the right. What does that mean? Which tack is lifted, port or starboard? Which tack is going to be pointing me closer to the mark?
Starboard.
Starboard. Yes, correct. Starboard is going to be the lifted tack. Port is going to be the headed tack. So, when I round the gate, I'll be rounding the gate on port, right? So I will actually be headed on port, but I want to tack onto the lifted tack, right? I would tack onto starboard and I'm lifted. If I round this gate instead, I round on starboard, so I round on the lift. So you say, okay, well, why wouldn't I want to go to the gate that I'm automatically lifted on? Well,
Flutter around.
correct. Exactly. Remember back to ladder rungs, right? So both of these boats, so they made different gate choices, right? And then let's just say this boat tacks immediately, just for argument's sake. Let's make these boats as even as possible, okay? Right? So they round, they made opposite choices, now they're both on starboard. They're both on the lifted tack. Who is ahead of who? Because, think of the ladder rungs, right? Ladder rungs are from the wind direction, perpendicular to it, and you want to be on a higher ladder rung. Who is ahead of who? Who is on a higher ladder rung than who?
Number 1.
Number 1, right? Number 1 is on a higher ladder rung. They're both on the lifted tack, okay? But because the wind is to the right, you want the more right you can get, the higher, the closer to the windward mark you're going to be, the higher ladder rung you're going to be. So as these boats go up, okay, what's going to happen here? So again, they have to go around the mark this way, right? So they're lifted. Let's just say no wind shift happens, right? So they're here, right? They're still lifted. This boat is still on a higher ladder rung. What do both of these boats have to do in order to go around the mark this way? Are they going to have to do something? Yes, right? What are they going to have to do? How would you get around? If you're this boat, how are you going to get around this mark? What are you going to have to do? And I want to go around the mark this way. Give me the steps. I have to tack, right? I have to tack, and then I'm going to have to tack again. But I'm going to have to tack. So, again, we're assuming no change in the wind here. This boat tacks, looking like this. This boat has to also tack. Boat looks like this. They're both now, they've tacked, they're not on the lifted tack anymore, they're both headed, right? How long does this boat have to sail on the header before they can get around the mark versus this boat? Shorter, correct? Right? This boat only has to sail maybe this distance, right? In order for them to get on the ley line, in order for them to be able to tack and make the mark. This boat has to sail all of this distance on the headed tack, right? In order to make up all those ladder rungs that they were down on this boat from the beginning here. Okay, so this is why gate choice can be super, super important. Because assuming there's no change in the wind, and assuming these boats are of equal speed, boat number 2 lost the boat number 1 at the gate here because of the gate choice. Again, assuming boat speed is equal, relatively equal, and that there's no shift in the wind. Does that make sense? Okay, so whatever side the wind, so basically what you're thinking about is, okay, what side was favored on the upwind, the previous upwind, and that's gonna be what I'm gonna think about. Help me figure out what gate I want to go to on the downwind. So if I realize that the right side of the course, because for whatever reason the wind was more to the right, there was more wind, whatever it was, the right side of the course was favored on the upwind, the previous upwind, as I'm going downwind, I'm gonna say to myself, if it looks like nothing's really changed, we'd want to go to this gate in order to be able to be more on that right side relative to other boats. Right? So what you'd want to do is you want to try to set yourself up in order to get a good rounding at this gate versus being forced to go to the other one. Right? And again, the opposite is true if the wind was more to the left, right? Ladder rungs are different. That would mean port is lifted. That would mean being more towards the left side is advantageous because you're on a higher ladder rung. So you'd want to go to the mark, to the gate mark that's taking you more to the left. Questions? Concerns?
What about the boats that are going this way, that are on the port tack right now, or sorry?
If there are boats, at what point? At which point in time? Just like
the ones that are between, the ones that are pointing the other direction, away from the wind.
so boats that are on port.
No,
You're
sorry,
saying-
the ones on. It's like the boats between the ones that he marked,
Like here?
no, above that,
Here?
yeah, yeah, the two boats pointing.
These boats? Well, this is not. Well, this is supposed to be that. These are supposed to be like this boat tacks and becomes this boat. This boat tacks and becomes this boat. Right. So it looks like. I mean, yeah. It's not supposed to be 4 separate boats. It's supposed to be like, yeah, that boat tacked. This boat tacked. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okie dokie. Let's see if there's any fun stuff to watch. For the next 5 minutes. Cause I think, yeah, we'll went over a lot here, so that's good. I actually. Maybe I want to. Let's see. Let's see. Get any download stuff. Let's see. So this is a good, so I think this is a good example here, right? So you have boats that are on. So they're gonna.
On the right side of the course.
So your boats that are on wing, right? But they're on opposite jives.
And then everyone either needs
So
to
it,
be
we're
on
just,
board
it's
deck.
gonna.
If you're not doing that, you're on board deck.
Yeah, okay, here we go. So, anybody on, actually, is everyone on the same drive here?
Yeah.
Everyone's on the same drive here. Okay, but, so, just to look at like a clear air situation here, right? So everyone's wing on wing here, right? So this means that there's enough wind where wing on wing is fast enough, right? And it's, again, that's pointing us more directly toward the mark. So everyone feels like they can be wing on wing. Obviously, right, depending on where you are, right, wing on wing is pointing you in slightly different direction, right? Also, just look at just positioning here, right? For the most part, notice like everyone has positioned themselves in clear air, right? So if you look across here, right, like again, you gotta think of what's coming from behind, because the wind's coming from behind. So all of these boats, they're in clear air, right? No one's behind either of them. This boat here, maybe not quite, right? It's got this boat and this boat, but still probably enough separation where it's okay. This boat you can say, all right, well there's all these boats behind, so for right now, there's enough space where I think this boat's still getting relatively clear air, but what this boat would have to think about is what? What should this boat be watching? These boats behind, right? And they should be watching to see, okay, so in this case, if I'm in boat 13, I'm having the crew look behind and saying, what is happening with our positioning and our boat speed versus the boats that are behind us? Are we staying, is the distance between us and them staying the same? Are we gaining or are we losing? If we're gaining, great, awesome. If we're staying the same, still good, right? And that means that we don't need to make any immediate change in anything, right? We're staying, it's like, okay, like we're still ahead, the distance hasn't changed. If the distance is closing and we're losing distance on these boats are catching up to us, that's when we have to figure out what to do. So if these boats start to close in, and again, it's a little bit hard because like we don't know exactly where the mark is, but just for, if these boats start to close in, what would probably the best thing for this boat to be to do? I would say one of two things. And the third thing is probably not the best thing.
Try to get more to the right side.
Yeah, why?
Because it's
Why not head up onto the reach?
because it's much shorter distance to get clear air if you go to that side.
Yeah, I agree, right? So if I, you're saying jibe. Yes, right, you're saying jibe and go to the reach. Yeah, I agree with that, right? Because if you just headed up to the reach here, right? I think you have more boats to this side, right? And I think you have more of a chance of still staying in boat's wind shadow. I think here, you don't really have anybody past these boats. So if I jibe, either go to the reach and head down, or initially maybe what I would do is I would jibe and go to the wing on the other jibe. Right? Because that might also get me out of their wind shadow. Right? Because think about it, if I'm heading this way on wing on this jibe, if I jibe, I'm going to be heading wing on wing more this way. Right? So that might, if I jibe here and did that, that might actually get me out of that blockade essentially, that wind shadow that's behind me. But again, I think this is just a good visualization of like what, kind of just like what clear air kind of looks like. And then, right, so they're sailing down. The boat behind, right, that boat that's all the way behind, their goal really is to just go as fast as possible. So where was boat 13? Where was it? Okay, so that boat just jived, and then, so now you can see, right, once they jive, right, their angle is different than the angle of the boats that are still on the other jive, right? So that kind of almost automatically gives you some clearer air, because you're going in a slightly opposite direction, and you're getting a little more separation that way.
Jacksonville is up there.
Jacksonville is up there. Oh, he's driving again. Okay, I don't know why he's driving so much. Well, depending on where the market is though. So, why did he jive there, right? Maybe he jived there. Why do we think that boat jived there?
They had more boats also to the right of them, maybe they didn't want to get there. We're at 15 and others, you see. But
Yeah.
My problem now is just mark.
It could just be, right, it could just be the mark. Yep, could also be, yeah, it probably is just the mark.
There is 13.
Oh, there's 13, okay. So 13 looks like they're maybe in the lead or something still, huh?
It really is, like, when somebody really purposefully sits on you on the downwind, it almost feels personal, almost every single deal. When somebody taps on you.
Wait, what is going on? Oh, it's another fleet, I guess.
That's, yeah, I'm assuming these guys are going to the gate, right? Yes, they must be going to the gate. Okay, so this is interesting to watch, right? So this boat, right? Look at the boat that's all the way, right? These boats that are wing on wing, and this boat just did the kind of headed up in to reach the mark, right? But this boat, particularly, and this boat also, once they were wing on wing, they're starting to now point. If they're staying on wing, they're starting to point away from those gate marks, right? So at that point, and you see this boat just did it, right? Headed up to the reach to actually make progress now back towards the gate, right? And boat 10 is probably going to do the same shortly,
It looks like Roger Williams put
or they were able to head down a little more there, but.
outside. They're gonna be first around, all over you. Boat 16 Brown taking the opposite gate
And
here.
then they're going to go back to
Split.
the here, I
I
guess.
split. I like split personally.
So everyone's picking different gates, or maybe not. Most people,
I'll take
oh yeah, picking different gates.
lower
Um,
condensed mark usually, unless I'm, if you're leading. But
No,
most of the time, it's like if I'm doing pretty good, I'm like, I just
so actually,
wanna lead
this is
now.
good. I just want to watch that for a
You're
second.
like, what did I do? I like split
So just
personally.
quickly, I read this in 2 seconds.
I'm usually like, I'll take the.
So I just want to look at this, watch this, just like for mark rounding purposes, right? Remember, so like what we always say a lot is trimming the sails when you're heading up around the mark. We want to try to get the sails trimmed at the same rate, and we don't want to trim the sails too fast. So particularly watch the jib, right, on this, right? So they jibe, right? So the jib is out here, right? They're starting to round, but remember, they're still like on a reach. They're still mostly downwind here, right? So watch how the crew gradually look. So now they're starting to head up. The jib is not, and even this jib here, right? These jibs are not all the way in yet, right? They're trimming them in gradually as the boat is headed up around the mark back to close haul, right? So there, now watch that jib comes in slow, that jib comes in slow, right? It's slow, but it's just, again, it's gradual. It's not an immediate going from having it all the way out to all the way in. Right, and now the rounding here, so that's that. Lots of laughing. Okay, but this is another good, so here, right, just looking at this, what would you say was just the way that these boats are stacked up here, right? Which side, which gate looked like it was favored? Which boat looks like it's ahead?
9.
Is that 9?
I think it's 9.
What are we looking at?
The most brightest boat.
Yeah, I was, well, they're definitely like clear ahead, but also like, just even like in this, let's look at this situation here. Like, who's on a higher ladder rung? Looks like these boats, right? Yes? I would say so. I would almost say that this boat's probably on a higher ladder rung than everybody. Yes, or at least in this scenario, right? I mean, 7 is definitely on a higher ladder rung than 7 and 18 are on higher ladder rungs than 14 and 15. Yes? Right? So that was, to my eye, this looks like, at least at the bottom here, like when you're rounding the gate, looked like might be going to the left gate and being more to the left was a better choice. Now, I'm not saying that, yeah, I mean, so there could be, I mean, 9 might end up in the lead. I don't know. There might be a wind shift, but I think at this point, I think 9 was also like more ahead of those boats too, so you have to think about that as well, right? So obviously, like they rounded in front before, you know, these boats and these boats, so they just have more of a lead because of that as well. And then, yeah, I mean, obviously I know we're done with time here, so we can just play it if you want to watch it. Well, but actually, so if you go on YouTube and you just type in college